Welcome back, everyone. My name is Meg Kruger. I'm the content specialist with Pioneer. Thanks for joining us for another Groundskeeper chat. Today, I am joined by Kevin Hauschel, and he is going to be leading our tech conversation today. So we have another tech talk for you guys here. And before we can dive into some of the innovative technology we've got going on with Kevin, I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. So without further ado, Kevin, take it away.
How's it going, everyone? As Meg said, my name is Kevin Hauschel. I am the head of West Coast sales for Green Sight and Solo Scout. And then I am a former golf course superintendent at Meadow Club in Fairfax, California. I went to school at Washington State University, have a degree in viticulture as well as integrated plant sciences, so not your typical turf management degree. But fell in love with kind of the golf industry, and then now I've been kind of just working my way as a former baseball player, just trying to kind of show what this technology can do for the sports field industry, and kind of have done that in coordination with the San Francisco Giants and their groundskeeper Greg Elliott, who's a good friend. So
very cool. Yeah, we love to see it. Yeah, migrating over to the sports turf side as always. But how has your background really, being on both sides of the industry kind of helped you, navigate these relationships and navigate, both sides of the industry?
Yeah, it's obviously they're completely different, but they're same in the same regard. Golf, you're focused more on the actual grass versus I would say that in sports field side, you have 90% of the time is spent on the dirt.
Yeah.
And so it's just a little bit of a flip, but that's probably just because the industry got into a kind of a let's just sod if things get bad situation. And so it's kind of turned them into that instance. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just because of concerts, because of events, because of everything that's going on these fields throughout the week, that's not including an actual game. It puts stress on the field. So for me, I took my knowledge, how the technology came about. I mean, basically I got initially approached, it was 2017, I believe. From Green.
I know you were about to say 20 years ago, and I'm like, I'm like, you are not that. I was like, what? When you were 13? Jeez.
No, so we had basically they came out with some really cool technology. All this is where drone technology has come from. Is it basically came from the military side, if that makes sense. And then what they've done is our company, Green Sight, we're technically a military contractor as well, a government contractor. Okay, so we do projects and stuff like that for the military. And so they kind of created a really game-changing drone that had these 3 different cameras: Ndvi, thermal, and your normal photo, right? High resolution. And so they had asked to basically see if we could figure out how to utilize this technology to basically monitor the golf course for water, fertility, stress, compaction, etc. And so what we did, I was like, I'm definitely interested in flying. And so we started flying that summer in May, and really haven't looked. My course still is flying. I don't think that they ever will stop. But it's been a really neat journey to see where the technology started and where it's going, if that makes sense. I saw it when I had a zip tied together drone and had all this other stuff. Now we have, the industry's leading drone essentially for VTOL and so our quadcopters. And so basically it's being a part of that whole transition. And what it allowed me to do was really, all I had to do was just focus on imagery and learn kind of how to best utilize this to make better decisions on my property. We were already doing things at a very high level, but there's a cost associated with that. Going out and taking, 1,000 pogo readings or TDR readings, it takes time, it takes money, it takes labor.
Mhm.
And when you start adding that up, we have to find a way. Our labor force in this industry is going away. People and kids do not want to work for $15 an hour and have crazy hours and not have a social life and not be able to hang out and do things that they want to do, go on vacation, etc.
Mhm.
And so it became much more of a passion project for me because I saw kind of where we could take this. And so for me, it was, how do I teach other guys how to use this? Right.
Yep.
And so basically it was, I know what we can do with it. It's just we need to teach people and utilize some, industry individuals who are well respected and figure out how, to just kind of get them to buy in and play with it. Which is much what we did on the golf side. Before I was with the company, I was obviously a superintendent using this. And so it was maybe weekly, bi-weekly meetings with the team in Boston, basically to try to go, hey, I like this, I don't like this, we need to change it, and if we want to, and so we eventually got to the point where we're at now. We have a really great job board, a really great soil sensor company that we partnered with, and Soil Scout as well. And so the goal is to kind of create a turf management ecosystem utilizing all this technology to basically allow these guys to have all the information in one spot.
Yeah.
And that's been the hardest part. When I was a superintendent, I used data to make all my decisions, or a lot of them, on the property. But the problem is that I had to go to this website, then this website, then this website, then this website, just to pull all the data to make one decision.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating to me. Is we need to find a way to get all this information into one spot and to have companies work together to basically create a platform that's going to actually help the end user. And so that's kind of where we've kind of pushed this into now. Where our new job board that we launched at the show is really a game changer. It's going to have the ability to hopefully here in shortly have the ability to do some autonomous mowing as well. And so we're kind of just getting everything kind of compiled together so that these guys can, battle what's coming soon. The labor crisis is only going to get worse, especially with what Major League Baseball is going through right now, et cetera. And so whatever we can do to teach these guys that, hey, there is something out there, it's different. It might take, a little trust and a little faith, but technology is here to help. It doesn't lie to you. It allows you to see trends that you'd never be able to see in terms of how the field's trending with moisture, how the field's trending in terms of compaction, whether or not you need to sod after a concert or an event. These are all kind of things that basically they save a lot of money to the actual team or the actual, facility if they can figure out how to utilize this to make sure that maybe they didn't need to sod that one time. Well, there's $300,000 back in your budget.
Wow. Yeah.
So so if we can get the teams and everyone to understand that, for a $12,000 investment, you're looking to basically make sure that you don't have to sod as frequently. You don't have to put out as much water. You don't have to fertilize as much, but instead now you can target your cultural practices, your chemicals, your fertilization to the areas of the highest importance. And there's a sustainability aspect to that as well, right? And so as we're all going to be asked to use less chemicals, use less fertilizers, use less fungicides, et cetera, and whatever we can do to allow that to happen, but still give the same playing surface or same quality playing surface day in and day out, that's the ultimate goal. And being able to have what I call a plant health report card in Ndvi, which is what's behind me. You're able to see, just in that image right above me, you're able to see how the lip edges are migrating. You can see around home plate where you can see all the traffic damage, basically where those red areas are. And so being able to actually walk into a room of ownership that knows no idea what you do for a living and go, guys, Red, not good. Okay. Green, good. Okay. It just takes that subjective approach, which, basically has made us become not the professional in the industry and allowed them to kind of hire consultants over our head or do this, that, and the other thing. We're now able to actually walk in there and have all the information to actually control that conversation.
Yeah.
And so for the first time, it's just getting guys to understand we don't have to be okay with working terrible hours. We don't have to be okay running our heads into the wall. If we can communicate with our upper management and utilize this technology to do that, now we're able to be able to get things that we need, right? It's usually not a lack of money unless you're on the minor league side or, and so if whatever we can do to kind of help them use their money in a better way, then now they have more money to put back into the field, put back into improvements, capital, that kind of thing. And so that's what we've also worked with golf courses on. The goal here is to make their lives easier. Much like technology has made our lives easier in other aspects, right? We couldn't live without our phones. The TV, news, etc. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's just we have to get them to kind of, understand that this is where we're going and this is how it's going to happen. And the thing is the beauty of this is the system was designed so that you could walk in, take the drone off, like the drone lives on property. You can take it in, take it out on the field, fly 5 minutes, an hour, you have your information. So literally you could fly this thing before a game, which is what the Giants do, make hand watering adjustments prior to the game to make sure that the uniformity and presentation of the field is exactly where you want it.
Wow.
And that's huge. In Europe, they've really done a better job of standardizing what conditions need to be on a field. We're slowly getting into that regard. And I think this technology is really going to just help kind of push that conversation further into that to more of a standardization of the industry. And with that comes just, better support, better understanding. We're not being wasteful. People just don't see the bright green grass and think that we're just pumping it full of fertilizer and water and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because there will be, with the way society's kind of going right now, there will be a change and a push in that direction. And so whatever we can do for these clubs to make them more sustainable with their water and with their fertilizer and with their chemicals, ultimately it's just another thing to have the team and managers, our groundskeepers to hang their hat on, so to speak. But the main thing is the goal here is for us to, with the job board that we also have, our Turf Cloud job board, is so you also know where all your labor hours are going. This is going to show them. So you're not just walking in with imagery, you're walking in with all the labor numbers, all the hours, where that money's going, and kind of just showing them exactly where all their investment is going. And in the past, we haven't been able to do that just because we didn't have, you don't know what you know until you know it. And I say that all the time. And we're just stuck kind of, and the golf industry is very much this way as well. I would argue that we're complacent. We've kind of done the same things over and over again for the last 30, 40, 50 years. And, equipment's come and changed and gone, but we really haven't changed our practices. And so until we actually start and adopted this technology to a point where we're actually getting information and being able to have enough of that information to make informed decisions. And that's where it really changes the conversation from, hey, we're just going out and we're just growing grass, to now they're the professional. Yeah. This is what we're doing. This is how we're utilizing this technology. And this is something that our owners, this is what they utilize to manage their teams. This is what they utilize to manage their businesses. Data is going to be the future of our industry. And once we realized and started embracing it, so to speak, instead of just going, as I call it, the definition of insanity, as Albert Einstein so kindly put it, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Yeah. And that's in golf and sports turf in a nutshell. And so whatever we can do to get these guys to think outside the box, to try something new. We've seen with Greg Elliott, at first they started skeptical, and then they go, I need this. Like daily, I need that flight. And that's the same response I had as a superintendent. You know, we're not trying to, this isn't a fertilizer company where it's like a subjective approach where, with all due respect, where you're sitting there and you're going, hey, I think it looks greener. Well, we can tell you exactly if it's healthier or if it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing is like now it just takes that idea of you have to be on a program or you have to be on this. It just allows us to show them, hey, you can do whatever you want to do with this field, and you can still host events. You can still, you know, host concerts. You can still do this while having the team, you know, playing on this surface and monitor it back to health without costing the club a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And that's huge because if they're able to do that, then, you know, that's an extra 300,000 that's going back into facilities or whatever else that year. And that's where we have to show them that we're not being wasteful. We're going to use their money as much as their $1 million to $1 billion organizations. They're not just going to just hand you money and go ahead, spend it.
That would be nice though.
It would be. Trust me. But every single time I had a conversation, you know, at green committee level, it's essentially the same idea. Is, you know, we're going into a board and I had to walk in there and actually have all the information and have everything to refute whatever they wanted to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest issue is that groundskeepers don't have the time to collect all the information they need because they're going through, their schedules are so rigorous.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you hit the ground running, there's no stop. Maybe even that, because even during that week that the team's out of town for 2 weeks, whatever, you're still doing, that's when you're doing all your cultural practices. So it's getting guys to just understand that if we can kind of keep these cultural practices, you know, down, like utilize or show them exactly where they need to target them during the actual gameplay, then they can actually make those off weeks for the first time. And that is something where they can target and go, okay, hey, I don't need to come in today. Hey, you know, Sam, you go airify these areas and you can show them the drone map.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's the power of it is that we're eventually just going to get these guys to understand kind of how this is going to allow them to kind of pick their head up and see what's coming at them for the first time. Versus 1 foot in front of the other. And then you wake up and you go, oh crap, that's dead. I need to sod. Yeah. Right. Which happens. I mean, I killed more grass than anybody else, but I can tell you this, when I got the drone, it made it so I was not killing grass. Yeah. And that's something that, you know, when you have for golf, we have 180 acres of turf that you're managing. It's a big difference versus 2 acres. But those 2 acres are the most highly maintained turf in probably the country. Yeah. So it's getting guys to understand that we have this small 2-acre field, but there's all these resources going into it. How do we make sure that we're utilizing those to the fullest extent? Well, instead of airifying the whole field, which is a waste of fuel, labor, et cetera, now we can airify maybe just the ring around the infield skin, or we can airify around home plate. And so being able to make those decisions and target your labor, there's a huge savings in that. Now you have more time to do other things throughout the property or more things that you haven't had time to go get. And it takes that idea of you're not just going to have to, oh shoot, that flew out of my head.
Well, honestly, you just made my job so easy. We can close it there. I mean, you answered every single question I had. I just kept looking at the questions go by and I'm like, yep, he just answered that, just answered that, just answered that. But what I really picked up on is, as these facilities, as their use evolves into not only just hosting one team, it could be 2 teams, it could be several different sports events, concerts, like you said, how technology can help a groundskeeper evolve and how their role can become more diverse, but not necessarily does that include more hours at the facility, more backbreaking work. It really utilizing the technology to evolve their role to really address some of those labor shortage issues where it's like you said, instead of utilizing resources that don't need to be utilized, not utilizing a person that's already been there for, a 48-hour shift of sorts. So it's like, that's where those are the biggest things that I've picked up on is that, the future of the industry is, as our groundkeepers, as their role evolves, making it so that they're utilizing the right use resources so that, their time doesn't necessarily have to evolve as well into bigger projects, longer hours, things like that.
Well, and they've had a lot get thrown onto their plate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the last 10 to 15 years, we weren't hosting Lady Gaga concerts on the mid center field outfield and then having a game the next 2 days later. Okay, and so there's a safety aspect as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to be doing some stuff, hopefully here with some PAs and, the players associations, et cetera, because there is something to this is we can actually make these fields safer for them.
Yep.
While they're also ensuring health of the field and making sure that, for a longevity standpoint, these players are going to have, just better careers, longer careers, if we can actually make sure that the surface is safe for them to play on day in and day out.
Exactly.
And we've seen that in football, that this whole idea that you can't manage a turf, a natural turf field and have it be cost effective is really just wrong. I can tell you right now, it's with everything that we're going to be, with the Green New Deal and everything that's coming through, sustainability and being able to offset your carbon footprint as a company is going to be huge.
Yep.
And turf will not be able to allow you to do that. And so utilizing this technology, we can show you exactly how little you actually need to run these fields and these systems. And that's something that you don't know, that bottom line, so to speak, right? It's the idea of keeping the bathtub full, but not letting it overflow or be too low, right? And if we can show you guys how to do that, as an industry, what ends up happening is you have more fertilizer available, more water available to the plant. You have overall better health. And it's just changing, instead of being afraid of seeing disease or seeing what's coming at us, which is what we do currently. It's let's manage for a healthy plant. And in turn, you're going to end up seeing less fungicide use, less chemical use, less fertilizer. Yeah. And that's what I saw at Meadow Club. I went from, I was at a top 150 country club in the United States. And literally I left at 2:30 every day. Okay. Wow. I went and coached baseball. If you named me a superintendent in that area that was doing that, I would be shocked.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And the only reason why was because I had this technology. I knew I had everything done before I left the property. And that was something that, as a sports field guy, I think would be immensely powerful, is going, okay, I temp that up. I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same idea. And so whatever we can do to get them to understand that for this little cost, you're literally looking at being able to control your field and have all the information in one spot. And it's going to make you look like the professional and allow you to kind of go in and control those conversations. When you host all these events and you have all these things, well, you can show all the OT you're working or all these extra things that go into these events that really, they don't get compensated for. And so if we can show them the amount of time, effort, expenditures, and things like that go into it, running a Lady Gaga concert, so to speak, now we're actually going to be able to actually justify higher pay, right? Justify showing, larger labor budgets. Okay. I mean, the field is like where everything's made and done, yet they like to spend as little as possible on it. And so it's just one of those things where I think now we'll actually have a seat at the table versus before we didn't. And it's the same thing I saw with Green Committee meetings. I came in and now I had the information, I had the data, I had the power, right? So this is the one thing that always stuck to me was data equals knowledge equals power. So when you have all the data, you have all the knowledge, which then equals the power and in that room. And so if we can change it so that these guys are walking in with this information, now they can actually justify, you need to give me a raise, right? Or you need to do this and this is why. And the company doesn't know it, but the technology's, there to also protect their asset, right? And that's something that's valuable to them is they just want it to look pretty for TV and they want to make sure that, or they can host as many tournaments if it's a public venue, right? As possible without having the facility go downhill at a very fast rate. And if we can utilize this large complexes, I mean, this is huge for them.
Exactly.
We have a couple of people coming online. I don't know if you are familiar with Jared Minnick, who's at Maryland Soccer Complex, but he's starting the drone this year, which will be exciting.
Very cool.
And we have a few other major league teams that I think will be popping online as well. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to play. And hopefully they can figure that out. But, it's just exciting times, to be honest. And, we're going to have some announcements coming up in the next few weeks, which will be kind of cool as a company, but kind of really that next step where we see the ecosystem kind of evolving. And so timing was great for the conversation. And, I thank you for letting me babble.
Of course. Well, no, and like you said, this is exciting. Just everything, the conversation and the way that sports managers can really advocate for themselves and the sooner we gain more respect as an industry, the sooner it becomes a more appealing gig for people to look into, the sooner those raises come. And so everything you said just is so exciting. And we're looking forward to, seeing what you guys, release in the upcoming weeks for sure.
Well, and you hit on the recruitment aspect is huge. I just had a conversation with guys in the golf side about this. If you want to appeal to the younger generation, you better start adopting technology.
Exactly.
Because, we all grew up with phones in our hands, right? And this generation, even more so. And tablets and understanding how technology can make their lives easier, whether it's school, et cetera. And so if we can get them to understand, it makes it a lot more appealing of an industry. You're not just tamping a mound, you're flying drones, you have soil sensors, you're making that scientific decision as opposed to, hey, this is the way I've always done it. You're going to do it my way, or this is the highway. Right? And that's what we're battling in the industry. The old guard, so to speak. It's the same thing in golf. But I'm hopeful. Every single younger kid that comes and sees the technology, their eyes just wide open. They're
I'm
like,
sure.
what? You can do that? Really? So it's just something that I think that's where, once we get to that point, like you said, it's just getting that ball rolling. And once people see what's possible, then they're going to start understanding. And it's priced the way that we priced it was, we're not trying to, make it inaffordable for anybody. Like, this is honestly from the spring training complex to the Major League ball field, to the MLS guy, to the, Maryland soccer complex, or to, whatever it may be, to a tournament, hosting facility. And so I think that's the thing, is it appeals to not just one portion of the industry, but the industry as a whole. It's not just baseball. It's not just soccer. It's not just football. It's everything as a whole. And that's where I think it's going to be powerful, is if we can get everyone kind of thinking that way. our sports field industry, everything like that's just going to kind of go through the roof, which is
For
great.
sure. A win-win.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again. This has been super informative and exciting. And I think everyone can get a lot out of the talk. And even if it just gets on their radar to keep their eyes peeled for, updates coming in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Kevin. And we appreciate your time. And everyone keep your eyes peeled and keep up to date on all of our Groundskeeper chats on social, on our podcasts, and stay tuned for more.